everybody. Welcome back to this. I'm your host, Shauna Griffiths. And today's Real Talk is with a real leader who I am proud to now call a friend of mine who I met during the pandemic. Tony Schiller is here with us today. He is a veteran in the sports and entertainment industry. And so I'll just welcome you, Tony. Thanks so much for joining us today.
It's a wonderful invitation to engage with you. So thank you, Shauna.
Yeah, absolutely. So folks, Tony is does a lot of things. One of his primary things is executive vice president and partner at Paragon Marketing, an agency based in Chicago. So we'll talk a bit about that. Tony also has so many qualities that I really admire and respect as an authentic leader. I will tell you folks, in my experience, you don't have to wonder what Tony is thinking or feeling. He is true to himself and how he feels and how he, really shows up in this world. So, Tony, I would love for you to give people a little bit of a look into your evolution from kind of there to here in your journey, and to, what has brought you to the place that you are now with Paragon. And I know you also do some advising for startups and adjunct professor, and you have a lot going on.
That's a question as big as the mountains that are outside of your house. So I guess to start, my orientation in life, and it started probably when I was in college, is I understood the power of helping others. Mm-hmm. And as much as possible, if you can connect with others, connect with energies, build trust, open communication, and understanding that you are there to accelerate people's success in any way, in any context, you're probably going to build dynamic relationships, and you're going to probably put people in position to climb higher in their journey. So that's been a big part of who I am as a person and who I've become as a leader, is working to connect with people and inspire and accelerate their growth. And in turn, that helps me achieve my goals as well. So broad as a picture, that's how I'll start our conversation this morning.
Yeah, no, I love that. And now I can really imagine when we had coffee recently, you mentioned that people at your office talk about your Tony Talks. I'm air quoting for those who are not watching. And so as you were talking, I could only imagine, really the value of these Tony Talks that you give. And so actually tell us about that. Like, as you do those, what do you tend to focus on?
Well, you started out in a bad place. I don't like the term Tony Talks.
Sorry.
It was thrust upon me. And
that's why I air quoted.
I appreciated that. And I don't think that because they know I don't like it, I'm sure it's going to stay.
Yeah.
But they're an opportunity, a safe space for me to go in these directions, which sometimes are a little bit more ethereal or spiritual or Zen-ish than maybe others would normally go. So it allows me to go there and allows them to listen. Most recently, I talked about the art of listening, which is such a critical skill set that really isn't taught. And we do it every day, and it's such an important part of life and business, but no one teaches you how to listen. And the way I look at it is we hear things. A car just drove by and I hear it. That's involuntary, but listening is voluntary, and it's something you commit to be present, to let the speaker know that you truly are interested and you truly are focused on what they're saying, and you connect with people's energy. And when you do that, it gives the speaker a different place to be. They aren't wondering if you're listening. They don't feel rushed. And part of the art of listening is just that, being still and not thinking about, well, when she or he, the speaker, is done, here's what I want to say, here's what I want to ask, or my next meeting, I have to do X, or this evening I'm going to go to the dry cleaner and go to yoga and whatever. The art of listening is truly allowing your energy to be present, and people recognize that when you are in that place. So that was the most recent Tony talk. And I think it resonated well with our staff. It was fun to discuss.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's such a great topic. I think as, for the audience, I think we have a lot of people who have, they have a vision that they either see themselves as a leader, they want to continue on their growth towards being more effective as leaders. And so I think it's really great to pause and talk about this kind of thing. And I'm sure there's many of us, I can speak from personal experience, of working for and around people who are not doing that at all. And it's really just that airspace while they while the speaker, the person who's supposed to be listening is just concocting what they're going to say, or that it's just you can feel they're just waiting to jump into your words. And so I remember that when you and I met recently, we were talking about this, and that was one of the things that you had mentioned you thought was one of the most important things about being a leader. And what do you think, this is something that you had an experience that made you want to be more intentional about it? Or was it just something that organically showed up for you as critical?
It's probably a confluence of a lot of things. I think that that is my DNA, is that I'm more sensitive to nonverbal communication and energy in the room, and how to be dynamic without being the loudest voice in the room or trying to be the smartest person in the room. But I've also, on a personal level, I've experienced people with anxieties, with depression, with mental health. And at work, I'm able to focus in on people. Sometimes people can't get to their maximum performance level, their optimum place, because they've got so much going on in their head. I call it monkey brain.
Yeah.
And monkey brain takes over. And until they find that piece, they can't tap into their creativity, their innovative spirit, their leadership skills. So part of what I've seen over the years is that helping people release some of that monkey brain energy allows them to tap into what they really want to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I love when you're talking about it, partly because it gives us a line of sight into, if you will, you're looking at people around you, and I imagine you're talking about your staff and really looking at them as a whole person who is working and thinking about their health, their well-being, their mental health. And I love what you said about like wanting to have them perform at their best. And I think that there are so many elements to that, but creating a safe space is such an important part of doing that, helping them to on the path. And it sounds like that's a big part of your leadership philosophy.
It is. I'll give you an example. I was with a coworker, and she's a young woman. She's about 22, 23. I was with her last week in a one-on-one, and she's going to be a superstar. She's got so much talent and creativity and personality. And I've started to become aware that when she's speaking, if she doesn't speak perfectly, if there is less than maximum efficiency in how she delivers a message, how she delivers an idea, how she delivers a question, she starts to beat herself up in the head. And I feel that.
Yeah.
And I told her, like in sports, if you're playing basketball and you need to pass the ball from here to there, sometimes your pass isn't perfect, and you want your teammate to receive it right here so they can go right into shooting mode or whatever, and they have to, but you got the ball to them.
Right.
And they were able to then make the play, whatever the play may have been. It's the same thing in communicating and delivering a message professionally. Yes, you want to be as articulate and as efficient with your communication at all times, but there are moments where you're not going to be perfect, because none of us are perfect, from the most eloquent speakers down to you and I. We have ums and stutters and don't have exactly the right word in mind that we could have used. But if you then get in your head and start beating yourself up over what you just did, rather than continue and push forward, that's when you're really going to deter yourself from shining.
Mhm.
So I shared that message with her, so she understands that it's okay to not crush every moment, because you're not going to, but more importantly, to just let yourself off the hook so she could still be present, still move forward. So hopefully that example is related to your question, because I don't remember the question at this moment.
No, it really is. I think, again, I was just talking about your philosophy as a leader. And I think even in the example, it's about setting people up for success, which is something that I actually talk quite a lot about. And even the way you describe having that conversation with her, sometimes it's those little things that we tell someone to help them. We're not telling them, don't think that way, or you really messed that up, or here's how you could do better. Even, whether that's positive or whatever type of feedback, I think even just giving her some guidance as to how to meet herself with grace in that moment, that is something really important. I think so many people as leaders, I think it's really effective when you can start to understand how to kind of dial in and give those people that, because what she needs more than anything is to know how to meet herself in those moments.
Right, and to give permission to succeed and therefore fail.
Yeah.
One of the things that I tell people when I have the pleasure of interviewing people, and usually if they interview with me, they've done very well in the process, and we're very serious about them, is I tell people, we all screw up every day. You're going to screw up every day. And usually they react, they're kind of taken aback, and then their eyes get bigger. But that's okay, because if you're going to succeed, you need to have confidence that it's okay to fail. And we've got a nurturing environment where if you make a mistake, we're going to help you understand why it was a mistake, discuss why it happened, and ensure that an individual learns from it. Because I want people to be prepared and confident to impact every situation. I'm the old guy in the room. If the 25-year-old who's more culturally relevant and socially relevant, who probably is closer to the big ideas and the great ideas, if they're not comfortable throwing out their ideas, whether it's strategy or activations or executions, if they're not comfortable sharing their ideas because they're intimidated, because they're not confident in themselves, they think that there's smarter people in the room, et cetera, if they sit on their ideas, we all lose. So they need to be comfortable knowing that in any situation, you may throw something out that isn't on strategy, doesn't make sense, or you're going to make a mistake, and that's fine. And I'm willing to experience that, because most importantly, I want to experience all the great ideas, all the great energy that people have to bring. So my philosophy is to try and create peace, so they are comfortable with being themselves and pushing themselves and challenging themselves. I want to inspire and empower for people to be as dynamic and as bold. I love bold, as they can be. And that takes some inspiration and some safety and some permission. And then just get out of the way, lead them to it, and let them be and do. I think we've created an environment and a culture where it's certainly just not me, but all of our leaders embrace this perspective and philosophy. And to me, there's not many things more energizing in business than seeing a very, very young person take over a project, take over a room, and almost impress themselves more than anyone else. Like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm swimming.
Yeah, it is. It's great. It's so fun to see that, kind of, as cheesy as the word is like blossoming that you see in people. And it was actually funny. I had someone recently saying that they didn't think that they had really achieved their goals in a year, like last year. And it was so interesting to me because in my perspective, I watched this person absolutely thrive and blossom in ways that were, this person just wasn't thinking about those as elements that were, things that were their typical goals. And so it is sometimes to give people the opportunity. I love how you talked about it, give people permission to fail, to succeed, those type of things, put them in that situation, set them up for success, but take that fear of, oh, what's going to happen if it's not perfect away. I think it'd be really empowering.
And it's funny because as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking through to myself, am I still giving myself permission to fail? And every now and then I'm more rigid with myself than I need to be. So it's a lesson that even if you learn when you're in your 20s, you need to make sure that you apply it and meet yourself, as you said earlier, with grace and peace, and give yourself permission to achieve. And if you're going to focus on achieving, you also have to allow yourself to be derailed every now and then. And as you talked about before we started the video, you're a biker and you've fallen off your bike more times than you'd like to admit, but you can't do what you do on your bike if you aren't willing to fall and scrape your knees every now and then. Yeah. So it's important that we continuously assess how we're treating ourselves. I find the setting of goals interesting because lots of times people set goals that are very one-dimensional and almost pedestrian. I want to sell this, or I want to sell more, or I want this title or this income. And some of the things that we're talking about on a more true essence, what I would characterize as spiritual, may have a longer impact, but they're not part of the goal set.
So true. So true. I love that more holistic way of thinking about it, of goals, or less about, because I don't, quite frankly, I'm not that much into goal setting per se. It's more of a North Star and way of being and way of operating that I work to hold myself true to. But I think it's really important to your point about thinking about, I think it's this holistic ability. And then also at times holding a mirror up to yourself in the process. I definitely identify with being hard on yourself though. So as much as we'll say to someone else, it's okay. And I know if I do it, I'm it can be really challenging. So we do have to take our own words for sure. So Tony, you talked a little bit about, you've given some hints along the way about the culture of Paragon. And I would love for you to share more about that, because quite frankly, when I was, as you and I've gotten to know each other, I've gotten to know more about Paragon, and I was looking through your website. And I mean, to me, some of the priorities that you have as an organization, this culture that you're talking about, it's really refreshing to see the degree to which you take it. And it really comes through as you are, in the website. And again, as I've gotten to know more about Paragon. So I'd love for you to share with the audience, how you have continued to evolve the company, I think. And part of this line of questioning just comes because it's really challenging to lead in business right now, to, in the midst of all we're going through in this world, to be present for your staff, to be present for the clients, to do all of that, but also, whether it's continuing to invest in your staff and their development and diversity and inclusion practices and things like that. And so, as I look at Paragon, it looks like you're doing a lot of things pretty healthfully, I'll call it. So I would love for you to share a bit about that, with the audience, and how's it been leading through all of this?
Those are some great questions, and I'll try to hit on most of them. So
yeah, any of them.
We position ourselves as an engagement marketing agency. We help clients build strategic marketing platforms, typically in sports, music, entertainment, arts, lifestyle affinities. And in that role, we target opportunities, we negotiate, we build marketing and activation plans, and then we activate. And we realized a long time ago, we've been in business for 26 plus years now. We realized a long time ago, there's a lot of really good agencies out there. And on any given day, there are agencies that may be able to do any of those elements as well or better than us, whether it's negotiate, whether it's create innovative activation ideas, whether it's execute. We think we're on any given day good to great in all those areas. But where we excel, where there's no one better, is in the construct of being a great partner. We realized that for our success, the path was not to be the best negotiator, the best activator. We're proud of what we do in every negotiation, every activation. We do great stuff, but no one's better than Paragon in the construct of being a good partner. And that's something we talk about a lot. And it starts with ourselves, with working with each other. What does it mean to be a good partner? And then it extends beyond us to our clients and then to the marketplace. But we define what it means to be a good partner, to do what you say you're going to do, to be honest, to be truthful, to be challenging, to be grateful. So these are all things we talk about in our culture on a daily basis. Is, are we being a good partner? Has the definition of being a good partner changed during COVID and virtual conversations like this? But being a good partner is at the forefront of who we are. And it's evidence that it works. Our average client relationship is 8+ years. Our average employee relationship is 7.7 years. So people trust us, they like us, they believe in us. And that's important, both internally and externally. We've had some hellacious negotiations on behalf of our clients with sports teams and entities where we've been really, really aggressive in negotiating on behalf of our client. I'll give you an example. One of our clients had a 7-figure sponsorship with an NFL team. I won't identify the team or the client. And we were in a renewal cycle, and we were able to reduce the fee by 50% while adding assets to the relationship. It was a very fierce, aggressive negotiation. After we consummated that deal, and again, saving our clients 50% and adding value to the value proposition, the team called me the next day and said, there's a client over here that we have that we'd like to introduce to you. They need an agency. And we still have that client that he introduced us to as a client many, many, many years later, as well as the client that we saved 50%. And that's not unusual for us to have very aggressive negotiations and for a team to appreciate and respect how we represent our client and introduce us to new clients. So being a good partner is very important to us. And when you tell a coworker, I'll call you at 1 o'clock, or I'll get you that budget on Monday, that's what you do. And if you don't do it, you're not being a good partner, because we all have to rely on each other, and it causes anxiety and stress if you don't know if you can rely on your teammates or your agency or your business partner. So that is really, really important and essential to who we are, and from top to bottom. If I tell a coworker I'm going to do something, then they should be able to rest easy and not worry about what's on my plate, because they can do what's on their plate. It's been harder during COVID because we have a very personalized, collaborative culture, and there's a lot of healthy interaction, both professionally and personally. And doing COVID virtual calls, it's not the same. You don't have that opportunity to see somebody on a Monday morning and ask them how their weekend was, or that their daughter was in a soccer tournament and how did the soccer, it's not as easy to build and maintain the relationships, and also to share concern and sensitivity to the team and acknowledge what people are going through, because you're not in the same rooms, the same hallways, etc. We've done a lot to hopefully maintain the spirit of our culture during COVID, we've done some outdoor workouts together. We've hired spiritual mindfulness coaches. We've had, the happy hours and trivia contest, but we're now starting to see each other again in person, and it's really moving to do that again. And fortunately, I think our culture has come through pretty well, but I'm glad that we're going to start to be doing less of this and more in person soon.
Nice. That's fantastic. Yeah, I think it's you and I have often talked about this, about the energy and being able to be in, and definitely, you can catch so much through the virtual space. And I think there is something really wonderful about that in-person energy, especially when you're pitching, or, I think can become, or certain elements of a team chemistry, is pretty special. And I think it's actually pretty amazing when you think about it that I'll say we we as the collective, have really been able to make it through this extended period of time and still find ways to make it work. But I know that there is definitely a breath of fresh air when people get to, to be in person. And as we were talking, it just made me think about something I did also want to talk to you about is, with all you do, all the hats you wear, whether it's between, I mentioned at the start of our conversation here, president or partner and EVP at the agency. I know you are an advisor to startups, adjunct professor, you have your personal life. I know you're very into your workouts, you have, family, you were saying you would travel a lot. And, I think that, but I never get the impression from you like that it's all about, again, like here we are with the air quotes, the hustle. It's not about like the hustle life you're trying to live. And I think your energy, the way you talk, your priorities, it seems to be, and I actually read this morning about this, there's an element of a harmony that you look to maintain in your life. But I would just love to talk about like, how do you manage to do that? How do you manage to, keep all the things going, keep that harmony? And if there's anything, because again, I think you've got people who are listening who are all different areas of their, stages of their life and their career, but I think it can be helpful to hear from someone.
Well, when I was listening to you mention all the things that I do, I'm like, crap, how do I do all that? But I've been very focused for the last 30 years, or probably more importantly, or more specifically, the last 15 years, on what I call my mind, body, spirit wellness journey. And I try and meditate almost every day. I try and work out almost every day. I try and eat healthy almost every day, and I'm a vegan. And optimizing our machine, our body, our spirit, our mind, and the confluence of all enables me to bring the best energy I can. And usually I'm a very high energy person. I'm not bouncing off the walls. And again, I don't need to be the loudest voice in the room, but I'm hyper present, and being able to give energy to each individual in each moment in that space is what enables me to do what I do. And I remain passionate and energized by those things, by being an adjunct professor and engaging with students, by engaging with startup founders and helping connect their vision to operation. That inspires me, that excites me, that I have the capacity to do that. And then to do what we do professionally, and to connect with my staff and my clients and do what we do in service to our clients, that still inspires and stimulates me. So I start with great energy from my mind, body, spirit wellness practice. And then what I do really stimulates my energy. And like everyone else, I do fall off. There are some days where my energy may not be 1,000%, but that's okay. And I give myself the grace that you can't be a hyper performer all day, every day. And there are some days where I just let myself have a less rigorous schedule, and that's more than fine.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, definitely. I think over time, I'm curious what your experience is, but I've find myself creating, whether it's little reminders or little shortcuts to things for that help me so I can maximize the time and energy I want to put into certain parts of my day in order to do many things. So I may, whether it's have the same breakfast every day, so I don't have to bother making that decision and taking the time and that kind of thing for that, but I want to pour the energy into something else. Or, I similarly do a daily morning meditation and making sure that I have that in a protected space in the morning so that it gets done. But I think there are these little, almost, I want to say like a cheat sheet for ourselves. I don't know if that's the right word, but in order for us to be able to do, the many things you do. And I love the way you talk about it as like, to basically to maximize the impact that you can have.
So one of my favorite writers and spiritual guru, coach, guides is a gentleman by the name of Dan Millman, who's written 18 books now on spirituality. And his most famous book is Way of the Peaceful Warrior,
Oh, yeah.
which I read when I was in college, and it was really one of the catalysts for a lot of my thinking and life practice. And probably about 20 years ago or so, he was in Chicago doing a half-day workshop, and my wife bought me admission to that workshop as a birthday present, I think. And I was so excited because I just, that he embodies, he helps me articulate this energy and my thoughts, and just, he's an amazing writer. And I just was so excited to see him. And it was, I think, a 3 or 4 hour workshop, and I probably took 40 pages of notes and was just so stimulated and excited to be in the room. And he was wrapping it up. He said, I just have a minute or two, and I'm just going to leave you with this. And he said, now here's the bad news. He said, all of what I've talked about for the last 3 or 4 hours, almost all of this, you're not going to remember any of it. He said, over time, it's all just going to, like, something in a stream that's just going to kind of pass, and you're not going to be able to even tap into it. He said, so I'm going to say one thing right now that you are going to remember, and it's important. He said, for the rest of your life, once an hour, just focus on one breath. And that's all I remember from that workshop. And I've actually gone to several of his workshops since, and I actually told him that story once, and he said, yeah, that's probably something I would say. But what I've done, and I do it constantly all day, is, and I call it taking a micro moment, is I literally just focus on a breath. I've done it on stage. I've done it during presentations. I've done it playing sports all the time. And that micro moment allows me to, in that space, in that experience, to reboot my energy, my mind, body, spirit. So I'm right back where I'd like to be. So it's taken me years to be able to develop that practice, but I just have to, for a moment, just not actually be present and just connect to my breath. And then, but I've done it while I'm speaking. Yeah. So I've done it while I'm still delivering a message. Just reboot with a micro moment, and that helps me get back to where I need to be. So I'm not one that's good with leaving reminders all over. No. I don't like excessive routine. Mm-hmm. I like to make decisions in the moment, and what makes sense for me on a Monday in March may be very different from a Thursday in September. So I just like reconnecting to my mind, body, spirit, and I do breath work to get there.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think those are the kind of things that I think are so helpful, and that I'm looking to make sure that we're able to provide those moments for our audience, so we can learn these things, from people who are practicing them. And I love the part about the breath. I actually just watched a friend of mine who does yoga and type practice out of New York. And she was talking about like regulating your nervous system through 4 breaths in, 8 breaths out. And I found myself doing it so much more, recently. And so it's really, really helpful. I think, again, no matter what the thing is that you have, it's almost like this little tool in your toolbox that you can pull upon to help yourself through these moments.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we should probably wrap it up because I know you have a big day ahead of you. I want to thank you so much for being here. But before I let you go, would love to have you just, if there's a couple of things, one or two things that you think would be best for people to take away from our time here today, what would those things be? I have some thoughts, but love to hear yours.
Oh, I would encourage people to think about their own mind, body, spirit, wellness, practice journey, and literally challenge themselves. What does that mean to me? How does my mind feel? How does my body feel? How does my spirit feel? And to some, it may seem corny and unauthentic for them, but still go through the exercise of how do you feel and how do these elements feel now and how do you want them to feel?
Mhm.
And what can you do? I'm a big believer in behavior and being intentional with behavior, because behavior can make changes, maybe even more so than setting objectives or setting goals. So I like defining behaviors that you'd like to do.
Yeah.
And if you do that in association with thoughts around your mind, body, spirit practice, it's a good path.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, for sharing your words and your time with us today. And I'll let you go. Have an awesome day, Tony.
I enjoyed it. Thanks very much.